It was dark, moist, and incredibly warm in here. The noise of breaking debris, flickering lights, and the groaning of a settling ruin was all embracing. Normally, a human would not dare to tread a place as miserable and broken as this, but God, the faint light of a flashlight glimmering in the darkness. More than one, in fact. Proving their nerves of steel and definitely earning their paychecks were the leftover security guards of this former place of entertainment, beauty, and pizza. This was a scavenging mission. Find and extract anything useful that Fazbear Entertainment may be able to use for marketing. "Do we really have to do this?" asked the biggest of the group. "We worked here. They say we are the best to do this. We do it. It's for our jobs," muttered one of them in response. "You do want to work at the new Plex, right, Dimitri?" "Duh. Dimitri want nothing more than keep working with funny robots." This was the most fun the former military man ever had. "See? Silly wheat man, where do we even start with this?" The employees sat up in what used to be the Pizzaplex's lobby. The light from outside was the brightest here and gave a little bit of comfort. Tables with snacks and drinks were set up near the entrance. Tasers and pepper spray were given out just in case there were squatters. And the silly wheat man, or as he was actually called, Brian, made everyone grab a crowbar. A tool he considered one of the most important tools humanity ever created. Smashing and breaking would, after all, be just as important as finding rare treasures here. A scoreboard was set up to force a little rivalry and motivation amongst the people here. The top 3 items on the list: a functioning Glamrock animatronic, a functioning endoskeleton, and finally, something Brian only called the prototype. No one knew what he meant by that, but according to the former day shift leader, he too didn't know what it was. He had just been given a brief description of it from Fazbear itself. And they also preferred the prototype to be alive. The choice of words are going over everyone's heads here. Among the people present, the security guard also had the former janitorial staff present. And you were here as well. You were the odd one out, as you were part of the entertainment staff, not the security staff. In fact, you were the only one here already working at the new Pizzaplex. You had your own reasons to be here. You weren't here to prove your loyalty, efficiency, or resourcefulness to Fazbear Entertainment, to guarantee a job at the new Plex, and you deeply hoped that Brian and Dimitri would win the spot at the new Plex. It would be nice to have a familiar face at the new one. But what was your job exactly? Well, you were Nanny Moonshine. That's how you were introduced, at least. A human employee working at the daycare. You were specifically there to be a reassuring mother figure for both the toddlers at the daycare and the daycare attendant's moon personality. The fact that an entire half of the daycare attendant's function was made inert by his creepiness and overbearingness was a thorn in Fazbear's eyes, especially since removing Moon from the daycare attendant models would cause bugs and glitches that were even more terrifying than Moon itself. And so your nanny position had been created. Your presence alone calming children enough, and also Moon. This was the reason the new Pizzaplex had instantly assimilated you. Due to your work knowledge that you already had. The guards looked at you with dismay. Anything you'd find would be a waste, not added to their points. But then again, you weren't here for the scrap, you were here for closure. You watched as the employees scattered into the darkness, armed and eager to work. For some, this was the most fun they had in months. For others, oh, it was more serious. This was securing their existence by staying employed. You stood next to Brian, who, as the second son of the current CEO of FNAF Robotics, technically was only here as a formality. Truth be told, all he had to do was waltz into the new pizzaplex and he'd be hired on the spot. All he needed to do was say, "Hey, I'm Brian Chesterbuck Crawford. Hire me, like right now. It's only gonna do you good." No, Brian was only here because the guy was deeply bored. "Hey, are you still here?" He asked you directly. "I'm waiting." He shrugged. "For what?" "I want to first know if the daycare is even accessible to begin with. I don't really want to risk tinnitus, you know." Brian shrugged, and bored spoke into his walkie-talkie. "Johnny, Dimitri, I got orders. Check if the daycare can be entered. Don't go in yet. Our nanny has business there. Then you can salvage it for whatever is there." The man then sat down, stretching himself while holding the walkie-talkie expectantly. 20 minutes later, Dimitri's voice echoed from the communication device. "The daycare can be accessed via the main door. Everything else, well, that is not accessible. From the looks, place looks out to travel through as well. Dimitri don't think little nanny should enter." "Oh, you heard the man." But as Brian looked up, you were already gone. Brian shrugged. "She is on the way," he muttered into the walkie-talkie. You were dressed in your nanny outfit. Luckily, it was a redesign of the guard uniform. It was dark blue instead of white or purple. No pants, you were just wearing shorts. And while normally you walked around barefoot, you had been wearing heavy boots just so you wouldn't step on anything sharp. The nanny outfit didn't even have a hat or a tie. After all, it was meant to be simple and unthreatening for the toddlers. Out of breath, you stepped over the debris, past a few searching guards who looked at you confused, but accepting as well. At least you wouldn't steal any of their scrap. You stopped in front of the daycare. It was in shambles. Horrifyingly so. But inside you, reawoke your purpose. You had come this far. You took a day off for this. You sweet-talked Brian into letting you join. You put on your uniform despite it being a liability with all the rust and sharp objects. You swallowed your fear of the debris. All for this. Simple closure. You weren't here when the pizzaplex fell into ruin. You're taking a 1-week vacation. After all, you needed this. Stop thinking about it. With a sad expression, you walked past the broken remains of the daycare. Your fingers sliding across the soot and grime-covered arcade machines. The dirt was oily and smelled like burnt plastic. You suddenly stepped into a puddle. The splash scared you, but for a moment, you clasped your chest to calm down. As you gasped, you looked up at the balcony of the daycare, attendant's alcove. And surprisingly enough, it seemed to be open. Light was shining out of it. A feeling, a glint of hope, made itself known to you. As once again, you were scared by a noise you didn't cause. It was your walkie-talkie. Dimitri found funny chicken. Ugh, has seen better days. Looks disgusting. Sighing, you turned off your walkie-talkie. Despite Brian's instruction of keeping it on all the time. You pushed open the doors of the play area, your feet stepping onto the cracked, slimy rubber floor. The crunching noise made you wince, and that's when you heard a metallic voice shout at you.
Oh, I'm sorry, little friend. The daycare is currently closed due to safety hazards.
From the balcony, you saw a son's face emerge. Its head tilting, the broken spikes wiggling. His face. Oh God, his face. You furrowed your brows.
Son?
You stuttered. His head spun from left to right. Half of his face was completely broken off. His left eye glowing red, his right one, usual white.
Please do not enter the daycare,
He repeated as he used his rope to return to the ground. He ran towards you, only to just barely stop in front of you. He looked down at you. Oh God, he was so broken. His right leg was exposed. Foot gone, ending in the spring that usually allowed him to jump. His hands were stripped of their plastic shells, and half of his sun spikes were broken off. And he was wearing his moon cap. Probably the retracting mechanism was broken as well. The endoskeleton teeth, usually hidden by his grinning plastic face, were wiggling excitedly. Only now you noticed that he was seemingly still sun despite the surrounding darkness.
Oh, I recognize your clothes. It's a uniform, right? You are an employee.
His voice, he sounded strangely calm. Yes? You tilted your head. It's me. I'm your nanny. He blinked.
I apologize. I don't seem to have access to the employee roster files right now. I do not recognize you.
Oh. Your heart sunk.
It's her,
Shouted Moon's voice from the robot suddenly. Confused, the robot took a step back.
Why are you suddenly so eager?
Shut up, Eclipse. It's her, my nanny.
Moon sounded quite happy. And Eclipse? You furrowed your brows. Wait a second.
I know her. She's nice. Trust her. She is an employee.
You quickly realized what was going on here. Somehow his system must have been rebooted. From the ground up. Restoring the personality that had been suppressed due to convenience. The robot wiggled from left to right.
Okay, if the others trust you, I trust you too. I'm happy to make your acquaintance.
He spread his arms, a pre-programmed gesture in the daycare attendant's personality. You sighed happily, allowing him to hug you. It was quite uncomfortable due to his shattered plastic. It dug into your clothes and flesh, but you had worse. His sharp digits dragged over your back.
You are very warm, Miss Nanny,
Said Eclipse calmly. It's my job, you said quietly.
Tell us what you're doing here. It's dangerous. I don't want you to get hurt.
You stopped, mentally preparing yourself. I wanted to find closure. The pizza place is in ruin and I feel like you don't even see it.
I noticed a strange lack of activity, yes, and the fact that most of the pizza place is inaccessible, though it didn't occur to me that it was abandoned.
The robot took a step back before grabbing his face.
This is terrible.
What do we do now?
Barked Moon.
You shouldn't even be online anymore. Shush.
Shut it. I am the one who kept us alive for this long.
Stop bickering, you two. You cross your arms. The rest of the staff is here to collect relics. I guess you're one of them.
Ooh, that sounds interesting. A relic of what?
You smiled. Well, a relic of the old Pizzaplex. It's for a sort of museum section in New Pizzaplex. It's called Memorial Lane. The animatronic's eyes lit up excitedly as he picked you up under your shoulders, twirling around like you were a child or doll. A little shocked, you just still managed to force a smile as her legs helplessly kicked the air.
Oh, that's wonderful! Did you guys hear that? We will be kept alive!
He put you close with a little too much force, falling backwards on the floor with a mild thud. You're landing on top of him. The springs in his arms creaked as they bounced your weight to lessen the impact for you. Still, air was pushed out of your lungs, but that was by far less than you would have expected. For a moment you hung in his outstretched arms before he pulled you close like a stuffed toy.
I'm glad we met, Miss Nanny,
said Eclipse.
Stop touching her. She's mine,
complained Moon. Is Sun still there too?
Oh, yes, but he seems a bit skittish ever since he realized that the destruction is too great for us to clean. You know how he is. He likes stuff clean.
Oh, I see. Sounded like once the machine was in the new Pizzaplex, he would normalize again. Not to mention, this was probably the only functioning daycare attendant with a properly working Eclipse personality. This machine was worth its weight in gold. Carefully you placed your cheek on Eclipse's face. The part that was still somewhat safe to cuddle, thanks to the plastic. You didn't care about the oily griminess. You were just glad the animatronic you worked so close together with was alive and well.
I love you, Miss Nanny,
hushed Moon's voice. Eclipse blinked, not expecting such emotions from the nasty Moon personality of his. But he remained silent. Seemed as if Moon needed to share this moment with you. So Eclipse let him. You suppressed a sigh of confusion. Raising your head, you looked into his eyes. I love you too, Moon. Delighted, Eclipse wrapped his arms around you tightly. Moon didn't want to say it, but was deeply thankful for Eclipse to embrace you like this. And you too. And you too. We're happy.
Thank you to the people who are supporting me on Ko-fi. You guys are keeping me alive.